Inside a house, an elderly couple was being held hostage by two thugs. They demanded that the wife go outside to call another man in so they could get to him. When one of the thugs escorted her to the front door, he was suddenly shot by someone from the yard. The other thug forced the couple into their truck and drove them away from the property. The one who had taken down the previous thug aimed at the truck, bursting its tire. He quickly caught up, pulled the thug out, and used his belt to strangle him, demanding to know who he worked for. The thug said he didn't know the leader, only that he was ordered to kill him and a woman. After that, he finished the thug and left, heading toward the woman's house in the picture. So who is this man, what has he done, and who has he offended to be hunted down like this? Join me until the end of the video to find out the answer. The film we're bringing you today was produced in 2016 and is titled The Accountant. True to the movie's name, he is an accountant, and his name is Chris. As a genius accountant, his job is to uncover financial fraud for various criminal organizations. His clients are connected through a woman's voice from a restricted phone number. As an auditor, he accepts payments in unconventional forms, such as rare comics, gold bars, and famous artworks. In 1989, a boy named Chris, diagnosed with autism, was taken to a neurological research institute in the United States. Sitting across from him was his neurotypical younger brother, named Braxton. In the waiting room, there is also a girl named Justine, who has difficulty controlling her behavior. In the meeting room, the hospital director tells Chris's parents that the boy has autism but that Chris is an extraordinary child. The director advises them that there are certain things Chris should avoid, as they could scare him, such as bright lights or loud noises. He suggests that the couple allow Chris to stay here for the summer, but due to his rigid nature, Chris's father disagrees. Having been in the military, Chris's father always has a strict demeanor. He believes that if the boy is afraid of something, he should learn to confront it rather than run away. During a conversation, Chris was almost finished with a boxing puzzle but was missing the final piece, which caused him to panic. Each time he panicked, Chris would repeatedly recite a nursery rhyme about Solomon. Fortunately, Justine helped him by giving him the last piece. After this incident, Chris's parents began to argue, mainly due to his father's rigid parenting style. The two eventually divorced, and Chris's mother married another man. Afterward, due to his son being bullied, Chris's father trained both of his sons with harsh and grueling exercises that shaped Chris into a tough individual capable of standing up to anyone who dared to mock him for having autism. As Chris grew up, he became a military officer. One time, he and his father received news that his mother had passed away. They went to her new husband's house to attend the funeral, but the guards wouldn't let them get close. Chris, who had autism, struggled to control his emotions. In a fit of rage, he single-handedly took down 6 other officers, leaving him with numerous severe injuries. However, one of the officers accidentally discharged his weapon. And the person who lost his life at Chris's mother's funeral was his father. After the fight, Chris was sent to prison where he met Francis, an accountant working for a crime family, and they soon became close. However, as soon as Francis was released, he was pursued and tortured to death by the very crime family he worked for. This infuriated Chris. He nearly killed a guard with a metal water bottle before escaping from the prison to take revenge on those responsible. After that, no one saw Chris until a surveillance camera captured a hooded man walking down the street, taking down each thug with a small knife in hand, moving so quickly that the naked eye could hardly follow. The man stormed straight into the gang's hideout, the same gang that had killed Francis. He eliminated each member with shots to the head, causing the last thug to scream like a child. That man was Chris. When Ray King, an agent investigating Francis's death, heard the commotion, he went to check it out but found it was already too late. As he ascended the stairs, Chris pointed a gun at him from behind. Ray was so shaken that he stuttered. Chris asked, "Are you a good father?" Trembling, Ray replied, "I may be a bad cop, but I am a good father. I have 2 grown children." After hearing this, Chris lowered his gun and disappeared. Since then, Chris proactively contacted Ray through his hidden assistant to report upcoming crimes. Ray did not know the source of the information, but it was always completely accurate. Using these insights, Ray accomplished numerous successes and eventually became the director of FinCEN. Before retiring, he blackmailed a young data analyst named Medina to help him identify and capture Chris. Based on the images collected, it was evident that Chris was always working with notorious criminals. But he was extremely intelligent, consistently managing to conceal his face from the cameras. On Chris's side, he was now setting up a small accounting office as a cover. At this point, Chris was helping an elderly couple from his neighborhood with their taxes. After finishing his work, he returned home, took out his sniper rifle, and began to practice. He placed 3 targets on a log and then lay down, ready to shoot from an astonishing distance. With just 3 shots, he accurately hit all 3 wooden figures, causing them to shatter into pieces. After that, Chris returned to his room, turned up the music really loud, and set off strobe lights while repeatedly injuring himself with a wooden stick. This was Chris's way of confronting his fears, just as his father had advised. One day, he received an auditing offer from Living Robotics, a robotics company. There, he met CFO, Ed Chilton, who continually dismissed the suspicious financial discrepancies reported by a junior accountant. However, CEO, Lamar Blackburn and his sister Rita Blackburn were cooperative. At his temporary office, he met Dana, the accountant who had discovered the financial discrepancies. Dana was quite curious about Chris's water bottle, to which Chris simply replied, "Oh, I accidentally hit it against the head of a guard too hard, so it got dented." That night, with the brain of Tony Stark and the muscles of the Hulk, Chris managed to analyze the company's entire cash flow over the past 15 years in just one night. Surrounded by numbers, he discovered that the total amount embezzled reached $61 million. Shared this news with Dana, and they began to have clues about who was responsible for the financial loss. The surprising twist came when, after the news was released, a group of assassins broke into CFO Chilton's house at midnight. They forced him to take an overdose of medication, making it look like an accident. The next day, Lamar surmises to Chris that Chilton embezzled the money and was driven to suicide out of guilt. Upset by Chilton's death, Lamar closes the investigation, leaving Christian distraught from unfinished work. At home, as he prepared to practice shooting, he heard his elderly neighbor calling for help. She and her husband were being held by the same assassins, who were interrogating them about Chris's location. When one thug forced the old woman to call Chris, a bullet suddenly shot him down. The other thug, seeing this, panicked and tried to escape, but gunfire quickly struck the glass door. The thug, frightened, pulled the couple into the pickup truck. Just then, Chris appeared and decisively shot out the tires. He quickly jumped onto the vehicle and smashed the window with his knee. Pulling the thug out, they both fell forward. As the assassin saw his target, he drew a knife. But Chris calmly unsheathed his belt and used a few basic moves to leave the thug flustered. Chris quickly locking him in a chokehold. In fear, the thug revealed that his boss had received an order to eliminate both Chris and Dana. This had to be connected to Living Robotics. Chris finished off the thug and headed to Dana's house. With the help of his assistant over the phone, Chris located Dana's address. Meanwhile, Dana was being followed by two men. He sneaked into the back of the building and climbed the stairs. When Dana reached her apartment, they forced their way inside and tried to subdue her, but she fought back and then ran to hide in the bathroom. Chris broke into the apartment, killed the two men, and told Dana to come with him. Dana was shocked when she saw Chris's expressionless face. Wondering how an accountant, he took Dana to his trailer and told her to wait outside while he got ready. She came inside anyway and saw all of his money and weapons. She questioned him about them, but he was unable to give her any direct answers. Chris took Dana to a fancy hotel to hide out, and she questioned him about his fighting abilities. He told her that his dad was in the army and made him train to stand up to bullies. He also mentioned that he had autism and that it was very hard for him to socialize, even though he really wanted to. Dana shared a story about a dress she had really wanted in high school, so she learned how to gamble and count cards to buy it. She only wore it once, but she just wanted it to fit in with the other kids. The two shared an emotional moment, and Dana leaned in to kiss him, but Chris pulled away, having a revelation about the robotics case. He told her that someone had been funneling money out of the company only to put it back in and make even higher profits. Meanwhile, Medina gradually gathered more information about the person Ray King had asked her to search for, the accountant. The man she was looking for could be a victim of childhood abuse or could have some kind of neurological disorder that caused him to chant the nursery rhyme in times of stress. Medina then headed to the IRS offices and worked with an employee to cross-reference the accountant's aliases with people who had high incomes. They were able to figure out the accountant's real name, Chris, and discovered that he worked as an accountant at a small firm located in a building linked to several cash businesses that he owned and used to funnel his money through to conceal his actual earnings. Medina called Ray with this information and informed him that most of the money Chris made was donated to neuroscience organizations. Ray and Medina led a team of investigators into Chris's house, noting all his unusual living habits. They discovered he had many weapons without serial numbers and a high-tech security system. Ray dismissed the other investigators and stayed behind with Medina to talk. As Ray shared his years-long pursuit of the accountant and the challenges he faced to get this far, the landline in Chris's house rang, and Medina answered it. Chris's assistant informed her that she was monitoring the two of them and provided information about the robotics company. Sometime later, Chris left Dana at the hotel and went to investigate based on the information provided by the assistant. He tracked the suspect down the street but was spotted and shot at. Chris continued to follow and eventually found himself at Mrs. Rita's house, where he discovered she had been eliminated with a bullet to the head. When Chris returned to the hotel, he found Dana asleep on the couch. He realized it was too dangerous to keep Dana involved, so he packed his things and left, determined to handle this alone. It turned out that the mastermind behind everything was Lamar. He had secretly embezzled all the company's money and now wanted to eliminate anyone who could expose him. Lamar's house was heavily guarded, but in just a few minutes, Chris managed to kill everyone except one man, whom he kept alive to interrogate about the layout of the house. The leader of the assassins watched from the security cameras and issued instructions to his men on how to take down Chris. Despite being severely injured, Chris managed to defeat all of them and entered the house. After eliminating his opponents, Chris sat down in the tense silence, muttering the nursery rhyme about Solomon. Inside, the captain of the assassins heard him and wore a stunned expression. As he slowly approached Chris, he finally recognized the assassin's face. It was Brax, his younger brother. Brax was furious that Chris had disappeared for 10 years and was upset that he had attended their mother's funeral. He blamed Chris for their father's death, and Chris allowed Brax to hit him to release his anger. However, Chris soon took control of the situation, pointing a gun at Brax until he calmed down. The two brothers reconciled. Just then, the old man Lamar entered the room, confused and angry that Brax had not dealt with Chris. Chris shot him dead and continued talking with his brother. Before leaving, Chris promised to meet Brax again in a week to catch up. In the final scenes of the movie, another pair of parents arrives at the neuroscience center seeking advice about their son with autism. The child wanders into a room and meets Justine, the director's daughter. She is the same little girl who helped Chris solve a puzzle when he was a child. The director explains that Justine is nonverbal but communicates using a very advanced computer. When Justine uses the machine, the voice that comes out is the same as the voice of the woman who worked with Chris. Dana returns to her apartment to clean up and receives a package. When she opens it, she finds a classic painting inside, but upon closer inspection, she realizes that the outer layer is only concealing a very valuable painting she had previously seen in Chris's trailer. So that was all about the movie. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below and do subscribe to our channel to view more of our amazing movie recaps. Hit the bell icon to receive instant notifications from us. See you all next time.